everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Congressman Auchincloss. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me on.
There was a big week for the Democratic Party. Last week, Vice President Kamala Harris officially picked her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. What's your reaction to her pick?
Tim is an educator, a farmer, a public servant, a veteran, and he is really Kamala's first decision that she has made as the presidential nominee. And I think what it says about her is that she values service, she values a return to stability and normalcy from a period of volatility in American politics. And she wants somebody who's ready on day one to be president of the United States.
He also has a very progressive record as his time as Minnesota's governor. Do you have any concerns that that record will potentially hinder more moderate, more independent voters to vote blue come November?
As governor, he expanded paid family medical leave. He expanded free and reduced price lunches for Minnesota school children. He helped enact gun laws that kept families safe from assault weapons and through safe storage requirements. These kinds of initiatives are popular across a broad swath of the American electorate, and they are part of a theme of looking forward. This election is really a choice between your future or Donald Trump's past. Because while Democrats are talking about how we're going to try to create more breathing room in this economy for the average family to deal with cost of living and try to expand individual freedom, Donald Trump is up there just belly aching and lamenting his own long list of grievances.
What do you think specifically Governor Walz is bringing to the ticket? Because if you look at just the numbers here, with the top three finalists, he's from Minnesota. Minnesota's a blue state. He also had the least amount of electoral votes, Minnesota, from Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro, as well as Arizona's Senator Mark Kelly. And both of those states are more battleground. So what is he bringing that you think those candidates didn't?
Well, I think it's a mistake to evaluate vice presidential nominees purely through the lens of an individual state. I think electoral dynamics is more complicated than that. It's really about the whole ticket. It's about who the vice president feels comfortable with on her ticket, who she feels like she has, as Joe Biden said about Kamala, simpatico with in terms of policy priorities and as a governing partner. It's really a personal decision, as well as a decision that she explains to the American public as this individual is ready on day one. And she didn't have a bad choice to make. I mean, whether we're talking about Shapiro or Buttigieg or Walz or Kelly or Raimundo, the Democratic Party has a deep bench of talent. You contrast that with Donald Trump's pick for vice president, J.D. Vance, and it's clear that our talent in this party far outpaces the MAGA talent, because J.D. Vance, to date, has insulted 46 million American women. He has insulted the police, and now he's insulting veterans. So he can't take his foot out of his mouth, whereas Tim Walz is out there talking about the American vision for a future that works for everybody.
To your point, Senator J.D. Vance also insulted Governor Tim Walz's military service, went so far as to call it stolen valor. You are a Marine. What do you make of the arguments that Governor Walz inflated his military service?
That attack from J.D. Vance is a despicable and desperate smear job. They're trying to resurrect the 2004, Swift Boat Veterans for Truth campaign against John Kerry. And indeed, it's the same individual, Chris LaCivita, who is now Trump's campaign manager, who ran that 2004 smear job against John Kerry. Same despicable playbook, same individual. And it's really just of a theme of Donald Trump's attacks against veterans throughout his entire career. He attacked Gold Star families. He called veterans suckers and losers. He refused to march in a parade with wounded veterans because he thought that they looked bad around him. This is someone who has no sense of service to anybody other than himself. This is somebody who has no respect for the sacrifice of veterans. And so it's no surprise that he is now attacking a veteran in this campaign.
I do want to talk about comments that you made last week about Governor Josh Shapiro. You called out the overly online left for telling on themselves, for criticizing Governor Shapiro's pro-Israel stance differently than other candidates. And you specifically said there was a, quote, strong undercurrent of anti-Semitism to that. Do you think that he didn't get picked in part because of that?
No, there's no indication that Kamala Harris took into consideration the Twitter left when she made this momentous decision. Kamala Harris is running for president of the United States. She's not running for president of Twitter. And she knows that her decision needs to be somebody who is complementary to her in terms of governance and is also helpful to her in counting to 270. And she made a great choice in Tim Walz. I think that can be true. And it can also be true that there is a segment of the pundits who were attacking Josh Shapiro with a double standard, and that's unacceptable. It's not who we are as a country. Your race, your religion, your nation of origin, your ethnicity should have no part in how you are evaluated. That should be down to talent, to work ethic, and to your own opinions.
To your point, do you think then that the left has an anti-Semitism problem?
Well, I think America has an anti-Semitism problem, and the Anti-Defamation League has chronicled this over the last 18 months, surging 400, 500, 600% year over year increases in anti-Semitic incidents. And these are not just anything goes. These are well chronicled, well documented incidents of anti-Semitism. And it's surging, regrettably, especially since October 7th, although even before that. And it's not who we are as a country. We are a place where pluralism, where tolerance, where mutual respect need to be the currency of the realm. And hate against Jews and against anybody is unacceptable.
To your point then, because anti-Semitism is surging, do you think the mainstreams in both party, the left and the right, and the leaders of both parties need to do a better job in calling this out?
It's always important to call out hate in whatever format it presents itself, because as we know over a long period of history, hate can fester and it can thrive in dark, unobserved corners, and it needs to be named and shamed. I think when communities organize against it, it tends to wither. So it's an ongoing, day in, day out process for public officials, for civic leaders, for those who care about the United States to make clear that hate has no home here.
Congressman, it seems within the past few weeks, and especially within the last week since Governor Walz was tapped as Vice President Harris's running mate, there seems to be a new enthusiasm infused in the Democratic Party. How do you get this to last to November?
Well, I think people are going to tune in more and more to this election after Labor Day. That tends to be the way of things. And I think it's going to require a continued contrast against Donald Trump's grievance-driven version of the past versus Kamala Harris's hopeful version of the future. I think Americans want to feel good about their country, and they want to feel excited about the future. And when you listen to Donald Trump, it comes across as mean-spirited, it comes across as self-centered, and it comes across as pessimistic and cynical about who we are as a country. And that's exhausting. It's not ultimately what gets people excited to vote. It can be a sharp contrast against a joyful kind of campaign that Kamala seems to be running right now. Now, we're also, though, going to have to appeal to those Haley voters in the heartland who maybe don't agree with Democrats on a big chunk of issues. And that's okay. We're a big tent party, and we want to enlist and recruit people from all walks of life. And I think we can especially win over those Haley voters by talking about reproductive freedom. J.D. Vance has attacked IVF. Tim Walz is an IVF champion. We can talk about lowering cost of living through housing policy, through prescription drug policy, through child care policy. And we can talk about respect for the rule of law. Kamala Harris is a career prosecutor. She's locked up sexual predators. Donald Trump is a sexual predator who has tried to overthrow the United States government and who has torpedoed bipartisan border security legislation.
Congressman, I really appreciate the time today. You are welcome back anytime. Thank you for joining me.
But